we had started to look a little bit into the programming before, and what the basics of programming is. We went through what a variable is, right? Who remembers what a variable is? Anyone? Variable is not an asset. Assets only exist in Unity. Variables are in programming. Nobody? Alright, do you remember in programming when we took a look at our code? Yes. And I looked at these first three things at the top and I said these are kind of like our dictionaries? Yes? They're going to give us everything that we need in code to be able to write that code. No?
Can't come in front.
Please, here. All you have to say is, sir, you're blocking. Please move your chair back. Alright. So I go as far as that, right? I didn't get as far as talking about variables. I'm guessing not. What is a variable? A variable is, where's the other one? Right here. A variable basically is just a container, like a box. Okay? It's able that I can put information into it and hand it off to somebody else to use that information. That person can send it to anybody else. Everybody can have access to that variable, to that information. I'm not going to send around a big piece of information. I can just bundle it up nicely into one package and hand it off. Correct? Yes? So what kind of information can we store? Well, we can store all kinds of information into a variable. In mathematics last year, when we were talking about algebra, we had A, B, X, Y. We were using those in mathematics last year, right? Like 2 plus A. A is what? What's in A? A is going to be a what? A letter? It's going to be 2 words? It's going to be a what? It's going to be a number. No. A is the variable, but it contains a number. So it's just this one letter A that contains something. And that variable can change, can't it? The number can change depending on what the person does with the equation. The number can change. No. So variables, the word varied means to change. So variables are things that can hold information and the information in it can change. So on a basic level, like say this variable, and we give variables names. This variable is called names. Okay? In math, we only use one letter, don't we? An X, a Y, an A, right? A, B, C. We just use one letter in mathematics, correct? Yes? No, but I mean, you can have like A plus B. But A is just one letter.
Oh, yes.
We don't have AB. AB actually means A times B. So we don't have multiple letters next to each other unless it's a multiplication. In programming, a variable can be an entire word, but only one word. Okay? Like this here says names on it, doesn't it? Right? What if I wanted it to be called student names? Why, what happened to you? You what? You hurt your finger playing basketball. Well, tissue's not going to stop a hurt. No, you should have gone enough before coming out. I can't have you going off on your own like this. Alright. If I wanted to... There we go. If I wanted to create a variable with... Actually, I can do it on the screen. A variable... I want to call it student names. I cannot use 2 words for the name of a variable. I'm only allowed to use 1 word. So we have to learn something. I'm going to type out a word here. I'm going to type out student names. Alright? As 2 words. I can't use 2 words. It's not going to allow me to use 2 words. So what do? I take away the space. Make it one word. But then if I had a whole bunch of words, it can start to get messed up. So what if I said a capital N for names? So I could tell names is its own word, correct? Good. Since I can only use one word, that's how I do it. I take away all the spaces and I capitalize the first letter. Correct. It's got a specific name. It's called camel case. You know why? Capital letters are large, right? So if you got capital letters, these large bumps in the middle of words, camel humps. So that's why they call it camel case. You have lowercase, uppercase, and when you do this, it's called camel case. Okay? All right. So, let's look at a variable now. Variables can hold information. And there's three things we need for every variable. And these are important things we need to know. We need to know, A, its name. Albeit its name is what comes to last. Like that there was a name, right? Yes? Student names was the name of a variable. Okay? We need to know its information stored in a container. Are you allowed this information? Yes? Take it. No, you're not. He's allowed. But you're not. Who's allowed access to this information?
Me.
How do we know? There's a very easy way to tell, yes? But how do we know? How can we tell? We have two major ones that we're going to use. Two major ways of telling us who can have access to information. One is called public, and the other one is called private. Okay? Oops. Public and private. Okay? Public variables can be accessed by anyone. When I say anyone, I'm talking about code. Because the only things accessing code are other codes. Okay? If I said something was a public variable, it means I've got this one piece of code. It is called, what's it called? Fries? What does that say? First script. That's the name of this piece of code. I can create another piece of code. Let's call it second script. And second script can access first script. Because first script is what? Public. So I can access first script. If I set public string student names, if I set this variable student names as public, it means that any code can access it. Got it? If I set it as private, no codes can access it.
So that's
Got it? Understand?
Yeah.
Good.
Sure.
The second word, I said there are three things that make up a variable. The name that we give it, for instance, student names. The protection that we give it, whether it's private or public. And the third one, which is in the middle, is what kind of information can we put in it? A variable can only hold specific types of information and no other type. Your question is?
So sir, would it be safer to play public or private?
Safer is private. If you use public, anyone can access it. Well, not anyone. Any other piece of codes in my software can access it. Sometimes private is useful. Sometimes public is useful. It depends on what you're doing. Okay? All right. The second thing here says what type of information is going into it. First one we have on the board there, what does that say?
Blackbird.
Right here.
Oh, student name.
This.
String.
String. Okay, string. What is a string? A string is anything from a single letter or a single number all the way up to the entire contents of a book. Okay? The only difference is a string must be in double quotes. So what's a double quote? These are, you might know them as apostrophes, right? That. You might know it as apostrophe, right? Yes? In programming, we can use these as what are called single quotes, where when you have two of them together with something inside of it, it's single quotes. And then you can have double quotes, like this.
Like somebody speaking.
Okay? Like somebody speaking.
Speech mark.
Yes. Everything that's inside of those quotes is called a string. Alright? I can fit anything from this. A. That's a string.
The little one.
I can put
Big.
number 3.
You can put question mark in it.
I could put a question mark. Anything that's inside of there is called a string. Okay? So a variable that holds a string, right there, a string, can only hold a string. It can't hold anything else. If I try to do this, equals Bob, Martin, all right, Martin. Whenever you're going to see an error, you're going to see a red underline. Okay? If anything has a red underline, it means there's an error somewhere. So always look out for those red underlines. So, is this here inside of quotes? Double quotes? It's a string. And student names takes what? A string. So that's fine, right? If I took those off, what happened? Red underlines. The red underlines are always bad, right? Alright, let's do this. 3. Bad.
That's a little string.
It's not a low string. It's just a number. Because look, underline. It's looking for a string, but it's finding a number. If I put the number, inside, now it's a string.
Yes, sir.
What?
When you went back up, like, what thing on the tree?
What?
Like you it's called highlight. Yeah, what the?
Oh, ignore that. Ignore those. Alright. So this is a string now. It's not a number. So I did say that variables take different types of things. Alright? I'm going to create another variable here. Okay. Int. Int is short for the word integer, which we learned in math. An integer is a whole number. Alright? Yes.
So what is the only student names and student age? What? Public first and public what? Like how? You know student names and student age. What? Like that whole color?
You mean the color?
The color of it. Oh, okay. Yes, they categorize different types of code with different colors. It makes looking at your code a lot easier to understand. Okay? If I see white like this, I know these are variables. Alright? So student age. Let's put information into student age. The age, 14. Alright. Is everything okay? No, it's underlined.
14.
Yeah, why?
Because
Didn't I say that int takes a whole number? Is it 14 a whole number? So why do we have an error? 14 is not a whole number? 14 is not a whole number?
How do you put in quotation?
A whole number means no decimal places, no fractions.
you put it up
That
quotation
matter?
thing.
That's
Yes, it
it.
does. Yes, it does.
Nope. Matt, you getting the correct one from back here. Say it again.
Put in quotation.
Because I put in the quotation, which makes it what?
That makes it a string.
Makes it a
But it's
string.
one number.
Is student age looking for a string or a whole number?
A whole number.
A whole number. So that's if I take this out, now 14 is a whole number. See?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's three. It's the color is your three.
What?
What you're getting is three. Like
No, this is where we put decorations on it. Yes, of course. Yes, this is where we code our game. We're learning the basics of code. All right. Variables are the most important basic of coding because we need to get information into our code and we need information to come back out of our code.
It's a
If if there's supposed to be a damage done. How do we know how much damage to be done? We need to send that damage to all different kinds of areas to have that process. In other words, we need to put it in a variable. Alright? Variables is what gets information around our code. Alright. A third kind of important one. So you said that you did programming for robotics, right? Now, there's always a lot of checks. In programming, you're always checking something. You're always asking a question. If this is what's going on, do this. If this is not what's going on, do that. Okay? The term if is going to be used a lot in programming. And all ifs do is just test a question. It asks a question. And the question can only have one of two answers. Either it's true or it's false. Is it a rainy day? It is, right? But if I ask in programming language, I would say, if today is rainy, then PE is cancelled.
Swimming.
Is today rainy?
No.
So I said, if today is rainy, is that true or false? Today is rainy. Today is rainy is true, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's what, every time we ask a question, the answer has to be either true or false. But what if we want to store that answer somewhere? I want to store it somewhere. I'm going to store it in something called
Public store.
A bull.
A bull.
I take that as a bull. A bull.
okay. So a bool is short for a word called boolean. Okay, and a bool can only hold two things in it: true or false. That's all a bool ever holds. If I tried to put a string in there, it won't fit. If I try to put anything in there, it won't fit. It would only hold either true or false. Got it? Why is that useful? Suppose I had a variable called AGD door locked, and I could hold a bool. I can say true or false. Let's say in the game you try to go through my AGD door, and AGD door locked is equal to true. Could you go through the door? Because it's saying it's true that the door is locked, right? Now let's say you go in your inventory, you pull out a key, you unlock the door. The code will change the information in that variable from true to false. So AGD door lock will now be equal to false, which means it'll let you go through the door. So we keep putting information into variables and taking them back out, reusing them, all kinds of stuff. So how do we actually, all of this is happening in our code. How does this actually affect things in Unity? So the first thing I want to do is I want to actually affect an object in Unity, and it's going to be an object that we haven't learned yet. So this is a new object that we have. Alright, so this is kind of like where we left off last, where we had just a single character up there, right? Down here, what do we call items down here? What do we call items up here?
Game object.
And what are over here? No.
Transformation. Information.
No.
Or input.
This is our inspector. Transform is one of these things, but there are many things that go over here and they all have a specific name. Starts with a C.
Components.
Close and then right. Components. Good job, David. No, but if he didn't say that, it would not spark your memories. Alright? He was the closest one. Components. Alright? I'm going to show you something else. It's going to be a game object. However, it's a very special game object because this guy here, he's a game object. Remember when I dragged the audio in?
Yeah.
And I said the audio is a game object. They're all game objects. But I'm going to show a special one where, let me grab the camera,
So you can make it move, right?
and I'm going to move the camera. Alright? See me moving the camera? Hello?
Yeah.
And you see down in the game view, it looks like he's moving, but it's not that he's moving, it's that the camera's moving. Correct?
Yes.
Alright.
So how you make
If I wanted him to move with the camera, I would have to actually attach him to the camera. so that he moves with the camera. Okay? But there are certain things that I want stuck on my screen during a game. Things that do not move. Let's say you're running around a forest, everything. If I turn my head, of course the background's going to change. So the background moves, everything in the background moves, lots of things move, but there are certain things on your screen that you don't want to move. Well, give me some examples of what you think those might be.
Your health bar.
Your health bar. You going to say the same thing? Weapons, maybe the weapon choice that you have. David? Your toolbox, maybe you have an icon that you can click on to go into your toolbox.
It's like your repair, like if you have a helmet or a chest plate.
I would actually say that, like David said toolbox, right? You'd actually go into the toolbox to see that kind of stuff.
Because the length that the camera is from you,
Like the camera is from you?
like how close or far it is.
That wouldn't be information on the screen.
On the screen.
Yeah, I'm talking about information that's on your screen that never moves.
Toolbox.
That sounds like toolbox. So we'll take one more.
Your map. Say we can have a map.
A mini map, right? Okay. What? You probably go into toolbox to get into that. All right. So those are things that will be stuck to your screen. Have you ever heard the term heads-up display?
Heads up.
Yes.
Yeah, the menu box.
HUD or heads-up display. For instance, if you're playing
Oh, duty.
an airplane game, right? You'll actually see the little indicator showing the lock on
Yes.
or the altitude, whatever, on the windscreen of the plane. Okay? Some cars have them where the dashboard has a special light that shines up onto the glass of your windscreen. It's called a heads-up display for a very specific reason. If I'm driving my car and I have to look at my speed, what do I have to do?
No.
Am I looking at the road?
No.
So, if I'm looking at the road through my windscreen and printed on my windscreen is my current speed, do I have to look down?
No.
I have my head up. That's why you got the name a heads-up display.
But so
Okay. So things like your life and all of that, these things you want on your screen, these can be considered your heads-up display. Who's seen Avengers? Or Iron Man?
Which one?
Whenever you're looking at Iron Man, he's always got the
The
readings.
shield.
You know, when you're looking through his vision, you always see the readings when he's talking to Jarvis, right? So quiet. If he turned his head, those things stay with him, don't they?
Yeah.
Right. So we need something like that because if I go and move my camera, everything's moving. So I need something that's not going to move. Something that's going to stay behind. When you're in art class, and let's say you're doing a painting, right? And you get your nice special paper on a big wooden rig, and you put it up, and you're painting and everything. What do you call that you're painting on? Your canvas. All right. So I'm going to create something special here. I have to go into a menu called User Interface. These are things that we can actually interact with. And I don't do it down here. It's not an asset. I have to create it up here as a game object. So I have to right click, and I'm going to look for the user interface, which is called UI. So if I bring my magnifying glass up, if I right click and I go to the bottom of the list, UI. Okay? I'm going to go and I'm going to create canvas. Alright, let's get this out of the way now. And did anything change on my screen?
Yeah.
Nothing was added. Has something been added?
Yeah.
You see that over there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If I double click on any game object, it's going to center it to my view. Alright? If I double click on canvas, there's my canvas. Now, do you notice, let me bring the magnifying glass back up again. Do you notice where is my thing? A tiny little box down there? That's the camera and the character down there. So look at the size difference between this, all that big area, and this tiny little area.
Awesome.
The bigger box.
The bigger box is my canvas that I just created. This is going to be the part that we're sticking into our screen. That's going to have health and everything on it. This is the part that does not move.
Oh.
Okay? But it's got this big, huge thing. How large it is doesn't mean anything. It will fit itself into my camera display. So, let's watch how this works. I'm going to, on the canvas, let's bring this back up actually. On the canvas, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say UI and I'm going to say text. We're going to create a text. So you can see on my canvas there's a text. Yes?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Good. Just making sure you're still awake after lunch. Alright, and we're going to say, let's call this health. So I just typed in, up there I typed in health. Okay? I don't like the color of it. I'm always going to change the color because the default is horrible. I'm going to change it to white. And I'm going to increase it in size. I'm going to put it in the corner. And make that bigger. Are you looking at the game area at the bottom?
Yes.
So,
no.
this is the camera down here. This tiny little box is the camera. This big huge box is the canvas. But it's fitting this word health into my camera. Anything I put in this canvas will fit automatically. It's like if I took some bolts and some wire and I stuck this to my head like that. And anywhere you look, it's going to go. Alright? And let's say I drew some stuff. See if the guy drawings in here? Nope, nobody drew anything. Anyhow, I got a bunch of circles in my vision the entire time I'm looking around. I got those things in my vision. Got it?
But sir,
There.
but sir,
Like that, because VR is stuff in front of your eyes. Yes, go ahead.
so sir, who's got like the background on the camera?
There is no background on the canvas right now. All I have is the word help. Okay? I can add a background if I want. I can add an image as a background. But for now, I just want to get the word help. That's all I want now is a word in there. Yes. No. Alright. I'm going to increase this in size so that words can fit. A lot of words can fit in there.
I'll find you.
Okay? I might let me actually just drag an image. Any image. Image. So here's an image, but it's just an image of a white box. Okay? I'm going to go to my creatures, go back to my image, and I'm going to drag this guy into my image. Okay? He is not a game object. He's not a normal game object. He's an image game object. He's stuck on the canvas. So, let me grab the camera again. If I move the camera around, notice they're stuck on the canvas. So there's a big difference between a graphic that's on the canvas and a graphic that's in the game. A canvas graphic is stuck where it is. A game image is something that we can use in different ways.
Make sure would the science the gravity thing work on as well?
On canvas? No, because it's totally different. And I have to add physics to a normal graphic for that to happen. David?
When you're typing, wait, so you know when you're at the texting, just where you got typing, that's where you put the character lines, right? Like what the characters are gonna say, that's where you put.
You can do that. You can use that for anything you want that has text in it. The cost of an item, whatever you want to put in there. Okay? And that's good because I want to get back to where we were going on that. Yes, last question. What? This? This? This corner? Which corner? This?
Yeah.
What are these things over here called?
No, I mean the.
Components?
Yep.
They're called components. What?
Don't call him
Of all the thousands of things that can be on the screen, why did you focus on one thing? In other words, don't worry about that for now.
What's that you focus on?
Okay? Doesn't matter. So let's move on now. I'm going to get rid of my image. I only want the words health. All right. Bring this back up. So I have my text here. I don't like the word text. Let's call this health display. All right, health display. That's what I'm going to call it. And if I look over here, I get its components, don't I? I get its components. And these components are basically everything that makes up what that is. So this has a bunch of things. Remember this word, transform?
Yes.
It's a little bit different. It's called a rect transform. It's going to be a little bit different to a normal transform because it's on a canvas. Under that, a canvas renderer. Remember I said a renderer is what actually makes something visible? So this makes something visible to the canvas. Next is my text. Well, this is the actual text that I was writing, isn't it? Yes? Hello? See, there's text. There's the size of the text. Down here, if I scroll down a bit, there's the color of my text. So that component called text is a very important component because that deals with what I see. This word health, that deals with what I see there. What if I want my code to change that? Hello? Hello? Gentlemen, get up. You fall asleep in this class, you fall behind. Khalil. So, I might want to change my health in code, don't I? What if I get hit? Will my health be the same the entire time? It's going to start going down, right? All right.
Get hit by a house.
So it will be code that's going to do that, isn't it?
Yes.
So I need to access that. All right. Let's look at some other kind of variables. Let's look at some other kind of variables. We got this variable that holds what? What is this? Holds what? A bool. What does it hold?
True or false?
True or false. So that's the only information it can hold is true or false. And it can only hold whole numbers. What if I want to save all the information about this? See all of these things in here? Font size, see all those things? What if I want something that's going to hold all of those things? All right? Well, first things first. You see this guy over here? You see the guy here, health display? I want to access him first. Okay? I need to access him. And he's a text object, isn't he? Alright, so first things first, I need to access a text object. I'm going to say, rather than these guys here, I'm going to say public. Oh, I have to add something here. My dictionary does not know how to handle user interfaces. So I need to add another dictionary. Hold on. Alright, I just added a new dictionary called unityengine.ui. Yes, I did. I just noticed that. Thank you. Good. UnityEngine.ui. I've just added a new dictionary, which means I have new words I can play with.
So how can the first one got UI and
It doesn't need it.
what does it need it?
Not all games need UI, so it doesn't have to add it in.
What do UI mean?
User interface. Our canvas is UI. Okay? So public text, my text. Okay? I want to go grab an object that is my text and use it in my code. Alright? Save. Let's go back. I'm going to create, I've got a game object here that's empty. You see this game object? You see this game object here? You see all it has is a transform? That's all it's got. I'm going to add another component. I'm going to add my code.
Yeah, as soon as
So now it has two components, a transform and my code,
that's the one.
right? Yes.
So sir, when you got the game object and like everything on it, right?
Mhm.
So the canvas, not anyway,
Canvas.
right? The canvas, right? So like that, like the major part of your game at this point.
No. Canvas is not a major part of your game.
I mean at this particular point.
Oh, currently it's we only have two things. There are no major points to the game. There are no major points to anything. We have a canvas with a text on it that doesn't do anything, and we have a character that doesn't do anything.
So if it was
There is no
together-
major component to this.
So if it was together, like the character you have right now, and you put him in the canvas, what will happen?
I went over this earlier when I showed you that there's a difference between an image on the canvas and a character as a game object. Okay? Unless what you mean is if I grab him from here and move him over here,
Yeah.
nothing. That canvas has nothing to do with my scene, except for what shows here in my game display. What shows in my scene is the camera. Okay? If this entire big square here could be done in a totally different window, I would prefer it. But this is the way they do it. Okay? They do it this way where the canvas is on the same screen as your camera. I prefer that they did not do that, but that's how they do it. Alright? I just know how to separate my mind from this and this. Okay? I don't even see, unless I have to work on the canvas, I double click the canvas, I can see the canvas. If I have to go back working on the player, I double click there, I move back there.
I thought it would
Okay.
change something to do with the character.
No. Canvas has nothing to do with your character. But the canvas had that health on it. Now, this game object,
So how's
I put my script on. Do you remember all those public variables that we were creating? Because they're public, they can be accessed outside of your code. Look at them accessed right there on the screen. You see them?
Not right now.
Look, students' names. Remember we put 3 in quotations with students' names?
Yeah.
Remember we put 14 down? Remember we put a true or false? Look, this is true, false, true, false, true. That's a true or false. And the last thing, my text. My text was looking for a text, wasn't he?
text ready help? The level up and up
And it says right now there's nothing in this box. But isn't this my text here? I'm going to grab him from here. I'm clicking, I'm dragging him all the way across, and I'm going to drop him there. That's going to be my text. Now, all of these options here, from text, character, font, style, size, all those options are now in my code. I've just taken all those options, bundled them all up, and stuck them in that box, and called it my text. So I can alter, I can change, I can do anything I want with any one of those settings in my code, which we'll see in the next class,
Yeah, one more question.
which is
Thursday.
Thursday, no, Friday morning. Friday morning. All right.
Sir, one more
You said you had one more question. What is it?
So like, how long will it take you to create a game? Like, all this stuff, the process?
That's not a good question because there are too many things to depend on. You can do a game in 10 minutes. You can do a game in 10 years. It doesn't matter. Okay?